Hello and welcome, everyone. Everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. These are going to appear online after this, so I'm never quite certain what the best way to introduce is, but we are so happy to have you here with us today for the official live webinar for Trotec Ruby. My name is Don. I am with Trotec's marketing department. I've been with the company for just over 2 years now, and I am very, very excited to be here with all of you today. If you're watching from, across the globe on YouTube or otherwise, we hope you'll say hello in the chat, introduce yourself, ask us questions, and we hope you are as excited as we are to learn about Ruby. With no further delay, I am going to start to introduce the very talented gentlemen who are sitting around me, who collectively, I think, have all of the expertise here today. I am an absolute novice with Ruby when it compares to these gentlemen around me here. I will start to my camera this way with Alex. How are you, sir? Can you tell us a little about yourself, where you're from, and how long you've been with Trotec?
Yep. So hello, everybody. My name is Alex Sikorski. I am with Trotec now actually since almost pretty exactly on the date for 5 years now.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And well, here at Trotec, I'm the responsible product manager for Ruby and for our software products.
That's fantastic. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you.
You're coming straight from the Austrian headquarters, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm just sitting here at the application lab next to my Speedy 400. Well, we'll do you the demonstration of Ruby today.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm so excited. Also with us, not to be confused, I have a second Alex down just across from me. Alex, how are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much. My name is also Alex, the small one. The one above me is the big one. I'm the small one. Alexander Jauka. I've been now with Trotec for 13 years, almost. It's going to be 13 years. And I'm responsible for the product management and product marketing group here at Trotec, and very much involved in software products in Ruby here also. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're very fortunate to have you. I think, as I said, you'll find very quickly that if you're going to be asking any questions in the chat, you'll direct them to just an Alex. And either way, you've got a very, very knowledgeable, very helpful person to help you. And last but certainly not least, Peter, who's just below me. How are you, Peter?
Hello, thank you, and welcome also from my side. So no chance for me to hide because there is only one Peter right now.
That's right.
My name is Peter Brandner. I'm with the company now for more than 15 years. Yeah. And I'm responsible for the application lab and the academy. So Alex, the tall Alex, is sitting in my application lab right now, and I'm happy to share this with him. And I'm really glad to be part of it today and help with answers that might come through later.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just so everyone knows, again, we're so excited to have you here. Please say hello in the chat. Drop us your questions as you go. We're going to be collecting questions throughout the webinar. We have a whole dedicated section at the end for Q&A, but we are going to get right into things. We have a little bit of a quick demo planned for you with Alex. I'll keep you in suspense as to which one. And then we have an exciting actual demonstration of Ruby with a live laser for you coming up after that. And then, as I said, some questions that have been sort of gathered from all over the world from different Ruby users here in the beta, as well as, like I said, some from the chat. So I am very, very excited. Alex, I will hand it over to you. Will you tell us a little bit about Ruby?
Okay. Thank you very much, Don, and also thank you for to the Trotec Laser Canada team for hosting this session and for the opportunity to introduce Ruby to the world. Today we're going to talk and explain a bit why Ruby is there, what Ruby is, and how Ruby actually works. And Alex S is doing this in a few seconds, but first let me have a few words. on Ruby. We are really excited here at Trotec that now everything is coming together and Ruby and the world are meeting. The response to the open beta is really outstanding. To be honest, in the beginning, there was some initial skepticism, and I totally understand, because when you change something that is well known and loved by the people, everybody was like, okay, where's my job control going? And we're going to answer this today too. But now we already have a lot of Ruby fans. So the people love how the photo engravings turn out, the import functions, hot folders. We're receiving requests that people want to use the Ruby API to connect their web shop to it and to fire their speedies from external software programs. So we just gained a lot of insight in a very short period of time in the last weeks. And this is exactly why we are doing this open beta, to learn from you and to drive and develop Ruby together with you and to change the laser world. So thank you for your contribution and contributing to Ruby. We're going to continue to do this. So why Ruby is there? We started this initiative, I would say, a few years ago when we developed Job Control 10 and started to develop Job Control 10. So this was quite a while ago. And at that time, we realized that how the people work with their lasers has changed. Laser engraving and cutting is not what it was 10 or 15 years ago. It went from the garage to manufacturing settings and to workshops. So it's big business already. A lot of our customers, they multiplied their business. So the requirements, what the software, what laser software should do and has to do, changed and increased. So people wanted to operate multiple lasers at the same time from one PC. They want to use Macs, they want to use a mobile phone and tablets to control the lasers. They want the software where they can easily create their laser jobs and work with their laser parameters. Very, very simple and straightforward. And the laser should not be a standalone unit. The laser should integrate in a total overall workflow and exchange information, files with other systems like ERP, MSI, or webshop e-commerce systems. Multiple users, multiple roles, and pre-press integration, that's really a must. So the demands from the users, what we experienced in the last years, really increased. And that's what we like to do with Ruby. Ruby stands for all that. We want to connect lasers. We want to connect laser users. Ruby is open to any customer workflow, providing a high degree of automation. And we want to provide the laser users with all the tools they need for their daily work to really redefine laser software and to set new standards for you and together with you. And we're doing this now with the open beta. We're embarking on a digital journey, and we would like to lead you in a new era of laser engraving and cutting. So that's my small pitch for Ruby. And now I would like to hand over to the tall Alex, the big Alex, to give you a walkthrough and show you what Ruby is capable of and how it works. So it's your turn, Alex.
Thank you, Alex.
even we get confused sometimes.
Well, thank you for the introduction. It's a pleasure really to be here today, to have all of you on this webinar today. And well, I would like to show you and give you first demonstration of Ruby and give you a little introduction what we can do with Ruby already now with the open beta, and to give you also an idea where we're actually going to. So I think first of all, and probably the most important and one of the most significant changes is that Ruby is a web-based software. So this will give us many, many benefits in the future. Because as Ruby being a web-based software, it means we will be able to actually just directly use and access it from a web browser. So in this case, I just opened Google Chrome, and I can directly log into the software and start working with my laser right away. So this means that in future we will be able to really access all data, all information, all customer information from anywhere, anytime, just online via the internet. And moreover, also initially, we do not have to deal with any painful, time-consuming installation processes, which sometimes requires IT administrators or so. You can just directly go to your web browser, log in, and have everything available right away. So just type in my username, type in the password, log in, and have everything here already. And for today, I would actually like to show you a few use cases, a few workflows I have prepared up front for you. And the first one is, I would like to demonstrate how easy and quick it is to actually receive a file from our end customers and just start lasering right away. So with Ruby, we can just directly drag and drop, import the PDF file. It's here now already, and I will enlarge my screen a bit. I can directly open it in Ruby, have everything available in here, have the design in here, can have a look at it, can check it, see if everything is correct in here done. In this case, it's all good. I can create a job out of it now. And just with copy paste, I can duplicate the design, prepare everything for the laser, check, for instance, also the material if it's set correct. So in our case now here, I have some Trolase material entered in the laser. So this is all good, and can just directly push it to the laser. And it's now transferred and can start lasering right away. The laser you see is already progressing and lasering firing next to me. I will stop this now for a demonstration and show you another use case. So you saw how really super easy and intuitive it is to just directly import a PDF file without actually going through any time-consuming printer driver, or also any additional graphic program, for instance. You can just directly import it. But also, even if we need to make some adjustments, and I will again just directly import the PDF file in here, can open it in here, and have my design available here as well. Some of you might notice this is the design file we have seen also in the Ruby launch video. And I can make adjustments directly in here now. So in our case, the date is not correct. So it's still the 12th. So I can jump into here, make correction, set it to the 13th of November, and again, create a job out of it. I can duplicate it again with copy paste with the shortcut on the keyboard. And I can also do kind of small batch serialization now in here. So I can directly again here, just click on the design, edit it, and can increase the serial numbers. Is to 18. Swing to 19. And last but not least, this one to 20. And I can very quickly make a small batch serialization of these templates directly in Ruby without going to a different software again or any editing program. And again, just select the correct material. So for those templates, let's assume we are using some anodized aluminum. So would all be correct set again, and can then again push it to the laser, and I could start lasering right away again. So you see also how much flexibility Ruby gives us in terms of graphic editing functionalities. But we also understand that from time to time, users just prefer to actually stay in their graphic editor. And for this, Ruby is also providing some really cool features and benefits. So during the open beta now, we are also delivering with Ruby a small application for the Windows, called the Tray app. which is running here down in the taskbar. And this tray app also contains an import folder. So I can open this directory, and whenever I save a file to this import folder, it's automatically uploaded to Ruby. So I also prepared a job and call draw for you, this rocking chair. And when I push this now, publish this as a PDF, and save it to this import folder, it will automatically be imported in a few seconds to Ruby. And it appears already, it is ready here. So this means you do not have to actually complete the designs, for instance, if you would like to stay with your preferred graphic editing, a graphic editor, you can just directly do all this, but still, as Ruby is directly importing those files, it provides us with a lot of functionalities also now, as we can actually also edit these designs now directly in here. So we can still, for instance, we can transform them, we can enlarge them, we can make them smaller, also rotate them, for instance. So this just as an example, as some examples for use cases, what we can do in Ruby. I would now also like to go into more detail of all the individual phases in Ruby, because you might have noticed that whenever I progressed in the workflow, we're also changing the pages up here. So we're having basically 4 main steps in Ruby that guide us through the entire workflow. And first of all is the management phase. The second one is the design phase, the third one, the prepare phase, and the fourth is the produce phase. And I will say a few words now to all of the individual phases. So basically the management phase really is there to administrate all our different designs and jobs. But also it gives us the possibility to actually manage them in a more detailed way. So Ruby is now also coming with a system with the including tags. So in the tags we can use to actually attach our jobs with some more information that can be used for enhanced administration, but also for instance for searching and quick identification. So we can, for instance, just attach them with some information on what customer we have made a job for instance, good old John Doe, but also what type of application is it? Is it a promotional application? Templates, for instance, as well. And we see here, there's a differentiation between the designs in here and the jobs. And basically designs is all the different files we directly import to Ruby, the pure graphic information. And as soon as we attach some, let's say, material information to it, it's becoming automatically a job. And the advantage of this differentiation is, well, the design really contains all the graphical information we can work on and we can edit on. And the job, as it contains the material information, can directly be used from here, from the management phase as well, and to actually work even faster with the laser. So we can just directly, for instance, drag and drop one of these files here, push them to the laser, and it's now added to the laser again, to the queue, and we could actually again start right away lasering from here. So it's kind of like a quick bring functionality. And what file types does Ruby support at the moment? We can see this on here when we click on the import. We can see here the file types that are currently supported. So these are PDF files, PNG files, JPEG files, bitmap files, SVG files. You can actually also directly import a zip file. And of course, you can also import files from job control, so the TSF files to Ruby. In the management phase, as mentioned before, you can also search for individual jobs. So whenever you enter something in the search field, it's searching for all the tags and the names and shows us everything that's coming up for this. And also, of course, we could sort this We can sort the list, for instance, by name or by the creation date. So this is basically the management phase. Let's jump to the design phase. And well, here basically we can actually edit all our files directly imported to Ruby, but also create entirely new designs in here. And I will show you some of the functionalities we have in here in Ruby now. I create a new page, and we see here on the top toolbar, we have some drawing functionalities, capabilities here already. For instance, we can make a rectangle. Here on the sidebar, we also have the properties for it, and we can adjust the size of this, make it 100 by 60. Lock the proportions again, and fit this to here. We can also, of course, add ellipses, circles to it, or also lines, and we can also add text to it. So I use the text tool to enter some text in here, a name, Lucas, for instance. And here on the side, on the property field, again, we have some additional information and properties to modify this text now. So we can change the font type, for instance. To something like this. We could also make it a bit better, make it a bit bold. And we can also add an image to here directly. So add this image of a tractor to it. And it's imported. It's a bit too large now. I'll make it a bit smaller. Increase it a bit. Undo. And rearrange this here. When moving objects in Ruby, we also see the snap lines like here appearing. This really helps us to properly align objects to each other and to the page. So I can easily place this on here now. As mentioned before, we'll also make some circles to here. We make this, we put this to the red color, to the red layer, and I will have a few words to this later in a minute. Also, adjust the size, for instance, of it, and place it correctly so we have a hole on our sign later. And again, we can duplicate it just by copy paste by shortcut and move this to here as well. We can directly create and sign a job directly in here in Ruby, for instance. And I mentioned the colors, the layers here on the side, and I'm already saying it, layers and not colors, because Ruby basically in the background, in the backend, is now working with layers. And we know the colors from job control. And why did we change this? Because, well, the colors are still recognized, but they are treated as different layers. And this gives us the possibility now to actually also process and work with CMYK colors, for instance. So Ruby does not require the good old RGB color code defined in job control. You basically can actually use any color now and import it to Ruby, and Ruby will recognize it. And the same is also valid for vector lines, for the line widths, for instance. So it does not need to be in hairline anymore. Ruby will still recognize this, will still recognize an object as a vector. And for this, I have also prepared a file as an example, CMYK file. And I just adjusted this file before, and you see now here that Ruby already provides us with some information that the layer basically is here, but it could not be matched to one of the predefined colors. So layer not recognized. But I can just select it here, assign it to the red color, to the red layer, and everything matches here again. Also the red one here, I changed this to CMYK. It's recognized, and I can select it now and assign it to this layer, to the red layer, and all is good and can be processed now by the laser as well. Also, we see here now that this was actually not set as an hairline. The heart here, we see this here, the line width is 2.83, and we can make this now directly in here in Ruby and set it to 0 and make all the adjustments we need. But even though it would not be put to 0 in here, the laser can still process it and it will still be recognized as a vector in the prepare phase. Put this back now and show you this in the prepare phase now. Create a job out of it. And you see the line is not, the line is shown as a hairline again. So Ruby recognizes that this is a vector, and you can directly in here via the material properties assign and say this should be treated as a vector, it should be cut, or if it should be actually engraved. Let's go back to the design page. Some more things on here to see and to show. First of all, on the left side, we're also having the design list, which basically contains all the different designs we have stored in Ruby. We can either delete them from here, but also open them from here and start working on them. We can also save them as a new design. So if we want to keep the original one, so we just click on here, save as new design, and it's saved now as a new design. And we can change the name in here. Test, for instance. And as mentioned before, we can also assign them with a tag now. We can then later on easily find them again and save it. Then on here on the right side, so we have seen, first of all, we have the dimensions of the sheet itself, of the job, of the design itself. Then when we click an object, we also see the dimensions of the object itself. We see the coordinates of an object. We can also select different anchor points. So if we want to precisely position them somewhere, and we can lock and unlock the proportions. Then down here, we are also having the rotation option, for instance. So we can enter a precise number to rotate an object, or we can just select it on here on the screen and move it to wherever we want it. Also, we see the fill option. So we can click and unclick this. And when we unclick it, we see that the text, the numbers are not filled anymore. This is pretty handy if we want to just, for instance, cut the outline of something to do a very, very fast processing, for instance, instead of the engraving. We can fill this again, and we can also change the line width. 0.2, for instance, and we see this is changed as well. Also, we can flip objects and mirror them. And when I will save this now and go back to the file we made before, when we select an image, for instance, as well, we can also invert them. So we have this possibility and option directly in here in Ruby as well. And then, last but not least, we're having the layer card here on this side. And first of all, we see the individual objects as they are grouped by the layers we have in our system, but we can also adjust this and change the view and show the object order. And now we see really the order of all the objects that are stored, that are contained in the design. And we can change this if we, for instance, want something to lay over another object. And we can switch the view back again. Good. So this is basically the design phase. And now let's go to the prepare phase. So also on the prepare phase, we're having the design list again. So we can access all the different designs again we have stored and put them on the laser bed. But also we can go through all the different jobs in here. So basically the ones we created before already. In the middle, then we see our virtual laser bed, and down here we see also the crosshair, which is representing our laser head. And there's also a pretty cool and handy functionality in Ruby now, where we can use this crosshair and drag and drop it and let the laser actually move. And I will just show you this. And we see now in the on the laser camera that the laser head moved already. And what is this good for, more or less? We can do a super fast and super accurate estimation if a design will actually fit on a job. So in this case, I could just drop it to the corners and check if the design will fit on the job. I do not need to move the laser manually with the keypad. I can just drag and drop it on here and really do this super fast and easy and immediately clearly see if it will fit on the workpiece. Of course, sometimes this moving of the crosshair is not intended, so we can also just lock this on here. And when I lock this, I cannot move it anymore, and it will be safe to not accidentally be moved around. Then on the right side here, we're having, first of all, the name field, where we again can assign a name to a job, but also can attach it again with a tag. For instance, if this job mainly should be done with trolleys, we're also having the property field. So we can also, in the prepare phase, transform jobs, so make them smaller or bigger. We can rotate them. And as mentioned before, we can also, and as we've seen, we can also duplicate them just by copy paste. And we see the pen, as I showed you before, we can just also directly jump to the edit functionality from the prepare phase if we want to quickly do some small adjustments on the design. Also, sometimes we actually want to reset the job to the original format as it was sent, as it was transformed in Ruby. We can just reset it, and it's again the original size and the original rotation, the original angle in here. Then we're having the material card. And this is probably one of the most exciting renewals we have in Ruby, because, well, I know that pretty much every one of us, at least for the first time when we got in contact with lasers, we thought, why is this so complicated with the parameters? Why are the laser settings so complicated? I just want to cut some piece of wood, or I just want to do engraving of some wood. I just want to do a dark engraving of some wood. And for Ruby, we actually completely turned, well, we actually started from scratch with the material database and thought about this and what we can do on this and how we can actually improve this. And we introduced something called the material effects to really work on this topic and to change this. So we really want to provide laser users with this option, with this capability, with this function to just select what effect they want to create on a material. So for instance, on some piece of wood, just have a dark engraving or have a deep engraving, for instance. And well, we will extend this methodology of the material effects in future a lot. So we have the first more or less tranche of the material effects now, the first introduction, as it's automatically importing the settings from job control during the installation. But this will be extended a lot in the future, and we really want to simplify the handling of laser parameters in the future a lot. So what do we see here on the material card? First of all, we see the material we have selected, and we can click on here and just search for some kind of material. So for instance, aluminium or some wood. And it shows us all the different materials we have stored in Ruby in the material database for wood. Then underneath, we have all the different material effects that are saved to this material. So in this case, for the trolleys, I have some quality engraving, some speed engraving, a masking effect. I will explain this in a second, and also a quality cut or a speed cut. And also, if we have some color, a layer in our design that's not matching one of the predefined settings in the material, Ruby will show us this in the unassigned area, and we can then just easily assign a layer to a material effect we want. And I think I will show this just quickly. So I select this one here, put this on the blue layer, update the job. And we see now here that it's not shown now here because it's selected as the masking effect now. And if I would unassign it, it's here, and we see it transparent. So we see immediately that it's not being processed, and we can just select it and say this should be a speed engraving, for instance. And we have seen it was assigned to the masking effect before. So what the masking effect does is basically, if we have an object that's overlaying another object, we can say this should actually be a masking and not being processed. And just to quickly show you this, I will just very quickly create a design in here, make a circle, fill this with black, draw another circle, put it, for instance, on the blue layer, also fill it, and then position it to here and create a job out of it. And we do see now, because it is assigned to the masking effect, the blue circle is actually covering the black one, and the inner one, so the blue one, is not being engraved, and we can actually create, for instance, a donut with this now. If we assign it to the engraving as well, we see that this area will be engraved as well. Or if we assign it, or if we unassign it, actually, we see that the entire black circle would be engraved. So this also gives us some functionalities and options in the future to create individual designs and how to build up designs. And then underneath, we're also having the processing rules. And in here, there's also a pretty cool feature hidden. So first of all, we have the option and the functionality in the geometries first, as we know from job control. So when we are cutting to actually do the inner geometries, cut them first. But also, Ruby brings a new option now as well, called the skip overlapping cut lines. And some of you actually might know this as common line cutting, as it's often called in the printing industry. And what it does is basically when two cut lines are overlaying, it would only cut them once. So for instance, if I would create a rectangle like this, the cut line now in the middle in between of them will only be cut once. So this, on the one hand, makes the laser process more efficient because we are not cutting redundant lines, but also we can actually really put them border on border the files and save a lot of material as well. And then also we're having the laser card on here, where we actually see some information on the laser we have connected to it, so the X and Y coordinates and also the Z. And then last but not least, we're having the working area card here, where we see all the different designs and objects that are currently placed in my job. And then here at the top, we're having two buttons, the Q and the push to laser. So this is also a renewal in Ruby, that we're actually having a real job queue in Ruby. So when we send something to the laser, it's actually really queued up. So we can then process the job after job, and not like it is currently in job control, that it's more or less a list, but it's really a queue that has a distinct order, where we can process them one after each other. So when I press the Q button, it will just be added to the queue, and always I get these information boxes here at the bottom that provides me with some information what just happened, or I can directly push it to the laser and just push it to the queue and immediately jump to the produce screen and can start lasering right away by just hitting the run button, for instance. So this is the produce screen. And well, what we see here is first of all, the queue I just mentioned before. So this is really the order the jobs have been sent to the laser now. And the operator could just now execute one after each other. But also, if I want, I can modify the order in here. If I need to, really push a job forward because it's really immediately and needs to be done for a customer right now, I can just directly select it from here, and could also just start it from here now. If the laser is not running at the moment, but also could change the order for production for the importance. Then we see the name of the job in here. We see the material that is assigned to it, and we see the current status of the laser. So also, if there would be an error or so, any kind of issue, a warning or so, we would also see this on here, and would also get one of the notification boxes we have seen before. Also, we have a preview and a large thumbnail of the job, and we have the elapsed time Ruby the job is running at the moment. So these are basically the four main workflow steps we're having in Ruby. And to show you some more on the main menu, I mentioned before the material database. We will jump to this now. So we're having the material database available in here as well. And first of all, we're having all the different materials that are stored in Ruby, but also we're having the material effects in a dedicated list in here. So we see all the different effects that are currently created during the installation of Ruby, but also some custom effects I have created my own for really better distinguishing and processing. Then also we're having more or less the parameters as we know them from job control in here. The power, speed, heart, what laser source, and we can also show advanced settings to really make all the tweaks we need to do to get the best results out of the laser. If we add, for instance, another effect to this material here, we can also say what layer should be assigned to this effect by default. But also we could assign this layer, for instance, to an existing effect and say, okay, black and blue should be quality engraving. Also, we're having the name of the material on here, with what can be changed. And then again, the text, which can be used for advanced searching later on. Also, the functionality here is the favorite. So when we click, so when we select the material as a favorite material, this will be the material that is assigned to a job per default when we promote the design to a job, as we have seen before. And then, last but not least, I would like to quickly show you the user management we have in Ruby. So this is also a very handy renewal we introduced. So not unlike with job control, where we always have one user, we can now actually create as many users as we want in our Ruby account. So in this case, I'm already working with my individual user I created before, Alexander Shikovsky. So for me, on my system, I have a administrator user, the Ruby user, but I can also create a new user. For instance, for my employee, make a test user. And create this, and also get the password for this user, which I can copy to my clipboard and can send them, and can also say what permissions, what rights they should have. So for instance, I can assign them administrator rights. Could also reset the password directly in here in Ruby, but also could remove them. And I could also activate and deactivate them directly from here. Also, what option we have in here is show files from all users. And this can only be changed by an administrator. So what does it do is, well, as we can have different users in Ruby, we can have all of us can have individual jobs then and designs in Ruby. And if I click this, I can actually see the jobs and designs from other people as well. I cannot modify them, but I can copy them as a copy for myself and can start working on editing on them. Or if I uncheck this, I would not see any files from any other user. So for instance, if I do not want that, I do not want to see them. And then, not a Ruby function, but one function I would like to mention as well is really the feedback tool we have here in Ruby. If we click on this, we get on a new page, on a new site, on the feedback form. And this is really important for us. So as we launched the closed beta in April already, we have received a lot of feedback from our customers, from the lazy users, which helped us to improve Ruby now for the open beta. And also now again, we really ask everyone to share feedback with us, to develop Ruby together with us, and make it a better product for all laser users. And with this, I'm done with the short demonstration. And well, I think I actually took some time already, and I will hand back now to Don.
I mean, thank you so much, Alex. That's fantastic. There were things in there that, I mean, first and foremost, I didn't know. I saw some great questions in the chat. I really wanted to highlight one of the last things that Alex said as we head into our Q&A section, which was about the feedback tool. I'm going to put a little banner here on the bottom of the screen. Oh, it's already even showing. That will give you a link there regardless of where you're watching from in the world. If you just enter that URL into your web browser, you can download the beta copy of Ruby right now if you don't already have it. We're going to go into the Q&A here in just a few minutes, but again, as I said, I want to really highlight something that Alex was talking about at the end of the demonstration there, which was the feedback tool. When you get into the beta and you have the chance to play around with it, please submit your feedback. I mean, especially the team in Austria and these gentlemen you see around me have worked very, very hard to try and make this tool as robust and as perfectly streamlined for everything that you need it to do as possible. But it is absolutely designed with you in mind. For the same reason we're collecting the questions from chat right now, and we have these questions that we've collected from users around the world. It's that we want this to be the best product for you. You know, it's so important to Trotec that we make our customers as profitable as possible, and we continue to make you as efficient as possible. And so if you have any more questions, definitely throw them in the chat. I'm going to get to them, and as many as I possibly can. Keep in mind that all these gentlemen are in Austria, so you can rewatch this webinar online, but we have already asked them to stay late on their Friday, and they were all very willing and happy to do it. But I will say, you know, I don't want to let this run forever because I know we could just keep asking them questions on and on and on. So with no further ado, I will jump right in. But as I said, do not miss out. ruby.troteclaser.com. Download the demo, the beta version, I should say, and definitely give us your feedback. One of the top questions I know we have been getting over the past couple of weeks, and Alex, you briefly touched on this in your demonstration, but I was hoping that perhaps we could sort of really clarify, how can customers run Ruby with a Mac, and will Ruby be Mac compatible?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a very good question, Don. And I know we get this a lot and very often. And well, I can tell as a small teaser that we will have an update very soon. So to be very precise, on the 17th of December, where we will actually provide some functionality on this topic. So we will have some kind of local network capability. So we will provide a feature in Ruby that users can actually really connect to the PC where Ruby is installed from any PC in the network. So this means also from a Mac PC, and basically do all the workflows we have seen now. So do the management, do the design, do the preparation, assign the material, and send it to the laser. And only starting the laser physically needs to be done on the Windows PC then. So that's coming already very soon. That's coming in December. And well, of course, as Ruby is a web-based software, there will also be a full Mac support, full Mac functionality where you do not need to have any Windows PC in your office anymore at all. Yeah.
And for the record, I'm on a Windows PC right now. I love my Windows PC, but I will say I think you just made a lot of people around the world very happy. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Thomas. The 17th of December, it's Christmas, early Christmas. I will say another one that we've got sort of repeatedly since even the first videos went live to our YouTube channel is specifically about file formats. I'll maybe ask Alex J if you could sort of touch on the file formats that we have currently. Sure. and maybe in the future.
Sure. So currently, as LXS already said, we started with PDF, SVG, PNG, JPEG, bitmap, and the Trotec file format. But that was a starting point, and we know that it's extremely important to work with CorelDRAW files, DXF, DWG, and AI. So that's on the roadmap. That was a starting point now for us, because PDF is very a uniform file format as SVG and PNG is. So starting with it, but CorelDRAW, DXF, and AI, DWG is on the roadmap. So that's coming, and to be fully compatible and have full control over the laser files from design files from Corel and Illustrator is very important to us and our users. So that's coming.
It's fantastic. I know my understanding too for choosing some of those file formats as a principal focus was also because they bridge all of those different software programs, of course. So you can export a PDF from Photoshop, Illustrator, CorelDRAW. If your customer is going to send you an AI file, you can always request a PDF or a PNG and be able to import it right into your Ruby straight away.
Absolutely.
Speaking of CorelDRAW, actually, this was one that came up in the office yesterday when we were sort of discussing it. We were so curious to see Alex get to demo the design and the artistic aspects of Ruby. So I assume, we're not phasing out CorelDRAW. We're not expecting that users, it's a very robust tool in Ruby, certainly, but we still have the functionality then to use the design software that we prefer.
Well, yeah, we do not aim to replace Corel or Illustrator, because every graphics pro will stick to their Illustrator, and there will always be Corel lovers around, and for a good reason. These are great programs, and I've been working now with Illustrator now for more than 20 years, and I deeply miss Macromedia freehand. So I can relate to all these discussions very much. But what we see a lot is that new laser users are asking us what the best tool is to create laser jobs and to prepare their files for their laser. And here we're aiming definitely to say Ruby is the weapon of choice here, and we will constantly add functionality to make it easy, straightforward, efficient to prepare and design laser jobs. That's what we're aiming for, not to a full-fledged graphics pro editor. That's not the aim.
That makes sense. Absolutely. Well, and I know I saw in chat while Alex was doing the demonstration how many people appreciated the ability to fix files directly in Ruby. That, if you get something from a customer that has just this one little tweak that you'd like to make, be it to the line width, be it a small typo, right? That sort of thing. Being able to fix those directly in the software is so handy.
Absolutely.
So if we have users who are excited to download the demo, I have to ask which of our machines are currently supported, which we should expect for the future. As you said, Peter, there's nowhere to run if I ask for a Peter. Would you be able to tell me sort of, I'll throw it to you, which machines are we planning to support?
Very good question. And finally, all Trotec lasers are going to be supported by Ruby. The open beta currently supports the Speedy series, so Flex, Fiber, CO2, some of them going back even into 2001. Yeah.
Wow.
And the supported product range will grow. Next to come, obviously, then SP series.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. So I should ask then, is there any sort of different hardware? I think I actually, yes, I have. So this exact question, is there a different hardware at all needed to run the Speedy laser with Ruby, or is it, I mean, stock standard? If it goes back to 2001, I assume pretty easy.
No, the answer is very easy. No, it is not. Yeah. And future-proof solutions, that's very important for Trotec, and offer future-proof solutions to our customers. The Speedies that are compatible with Job Control 11 also support Ruby. If you are not yet on 11 or have questions, please also get in touch with the local teams. They can help you to get there.
100%. I cannot recommend 11 enough. I'm slightly biased, but I do really like working with Job Control 11 personally. Similarly, I have to ask if you can run Ruby and Job Control in parallel. We had some great questions about importing material settings from Job Control to Ruby, that sort of thing. So just as a baseline, are we able to run both softwares, alongside one another?
Yes, you can. You can install and run both packages in parallel and even switch between the software packages if needed for the one or the other job. And this is also what we do right now, because I'm the biggest machine user at Trotec HQ right now. Yeah.
As you said, Alex is in your applications lab at the moment.
It's ours.
It's a share, absolutely. And so I think you've sort of touched on this, but again, these were great questions we thought gathered from customers around the world. So are there any plans for Ruby to phase out Job Control? And if so, how soon can we expect that?
Yeah, Job Control is and still will be functional with your lasers, and we are going to support this. But obviously what you have seen also in the demonstration of Alex, Ruby and the technological base of Ruby allows us to bring even more benefits to the laser users of the world that have not been possible in the past. So definitely the technology base for future developments is going to be Ruby. And from today's perspective, we are planning to put Job Control into a frozen state around mid-2022. And however, it will still be supported then for the upcoming years. But the amazing stuff that Alex has shown, this is possible because of the technology base of Ruby. Yeah.
That's really exciting. I think particularly as people get to use Ruby, they will really, really grow to love it. As I said, seeing the demo from Alex has really, I got a sneak peek of it several weeks ago, and it's made me an absolute believer. Even as a longtime Job Control lover, as I said, I recommend 11 fully, but yeah, I'm very quickly becoming a dedicated Ruby fan. So I have to ask, though, of course, on behalf of the Job Control fanatics like myself, some of the things that are in Job Control sort of already and functioning, things like, of course, the vision camera, the rotary system, are not yet sort of in Ruby. I assume those are on the roadmap for the future.
That's a very good question. It's not just your or the question of the laser users. It's also my question.
Right.
And all of the named features and even more, that's already on the list for coming in the next year. Yeah. And the good thing, and for the visitors of the website, there is also very transparent the product development roadmap to be seen there. And the good thing is also you can see it, you can see what's coming next, and feedback is very important for us at Trotec. Yeah. So everybody's invited to be part of the product development of Ruby. And that's also the reason why we are sharing transparent here the ideas what's coming next. Yeah. But all of the named ones are coming in the next year.
100%. Thank you, Peter. I should let Peter relax. I've put him on the hot seat. I will go back to Alex, if you don't mind. I wanted to point this out because we were able to show the promo video at the beginning of the webinar, and in it you see this fantastic touchscreen display that had everyone here in Canada buzzing that morning that the the promo went live. Can you tell me sort of when is that on the roadmap at all for the future of the lasers? Perhaps.
Yeah, well, that's exactly why we had it in the video to get everybody excited and cranked up for this new product coming up.
It worked.
Yeah, very good, very good. Mid next year, very easy answer. Mid next year. Mid next year is coming to the speedies.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Sort of on a similar point then, we definitely want to throw this one in here about, does Trotec currently have plans, or do we have are we planning to provide a solution for an integrated camera feature?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, Trotec was the first laser plotter manufacturer to bring camera systems to laser plotters. We launched the Job Control Vision, but at the time it was called iCut in 2001 already, and Job Control Vision was 2012. And on the Speed Marker series, on the Galvo systems, we have off-camera systems, so where the camera has the view on the working area, and we have systems where you see with the camera through the Galvo head, so directly on the working area through the laser head. So very sophisticated solutions here, and you definitely can say that we believe in vision systems and the benefit that vision systems bring to laser engraving and cutting. Yes, it's coming. It's coming next year.
Next year is going to be a busy.
No, it is already busy, because you know what hits the market next year is here now our work and our daily life.
Well, I should say I have a question here, and I will go back to Alex in the applications lab. Thank you so much again for the demo. I want to give you some time to just rest and relax. I know it's tough to talk for that long straight, but thank you so much for the demo. It was fantastic. I have to ask, as someone who is deeply connected to the consumables here in Canada, I have to know if it's going to be possible to connect a web shop with Ruby on behalf of all the customers that I know I sell consumables to, who have their own, web shops and web businesses online.
Well, that's a very good question. And as I mentioned in the beginning, initially, really, Ruby is a web-based software, and there are many things coming with this. And we really see the future of laser users, of lasering, really as a connected one, and really also kind of Industry 4.0 and all these things are coming to the laser world as well. And one of them clearly is also connectivity with other systems, as you mentioned, web shops. And the good news is, really, with the technology base of Ruby we're having now, as it's being a web-based software, we're also having the interfaces to connect with those systems, like an API, an application programmable interface, which basically every web shop nowadays uses a way as well. To connect with Ruby then, and this will really give us the possibility and the option to fully automate the entire process and really limit the number and minimize the manual input of the entire workflow then.
That's fantastic. Okay, I'm going to take that back. I have a few customers I know I need to get a hold of today. Sort of on a similar note then, because it is web-based, should we expect that Ruby will have a network capability as well?
Well, we really, as I said, we really see the future and the benefits of this web-based technology. And I mean, it's not just the functionality it will provide us, but also it enables us to really connect laser users, to really connect the laser community. And an integrative part of this as well is, of course, connecting laser machines. So yes, clearly the answer to this is yes, we will have network capability. I teased already before, we will have some local network capability already in December. There's definitely more to come. We will also be able to control multiple machines, laser machines. in the future as well. So it's definitely going to be exciting times here.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Alex. So this is one, I don't know if I saw this in the chat, but I know it's one I've heard from customers personally. So does Ruby run sort of right in the internet itself, or will there, are there plans for an offline solution potentially down in the roadmap somewhere down the line?
Well, currently the open beta is to some extent there are online functionalities already there, but you still, install it locally on your Windows 10 PC. But we really believe, strongly believe in this and see how this will actually benefit laser users in the future. All kind of over-the-air updates, for instance, where we really stay up to date with our systems on the latest functionalities. There will come new features and new functionalities with Ruby often that make us more productive, as we have seen today. There's way more to come. And therefore, we really believe in being connected, being online. So we would like really to go for an online solution where everyone really benefits from continuous updates over the air and being connected with the rest of the world. But also clearly we see that sometimes this is not possible. And the good news is, of course, for those customers as well, where internet access is not possible, we will definitely have a solution available as well.
Awesome. I'm very glad to hear it. I think we're getting towards, we're over an hour already, but I have a few more questions I wanted to pass by you. I think one that is very, very important to address certainly is any issues of security. Certainly you've shown some of the robust sort of different, the number of users and things that you can add to the system. In particular, I know there was a customer in the chat who was talking about working with many of his students in the classroom and being able to give each of them an account was fantastic. But, could you touch maybe even just briefly on how, Trotec will address sort of security related concerns perhaps going forward?
Well, to be honest, security is really a serious topic here at Trotec as well. And this is treated very important here. So whenever we started with the conception of Ruby, we always had all different kind of GDPR regulations, rules nowadays in mind to really comply with all of these things. But also we're really using certified technology by Microsoft for exactly those reasons. And also using latest encryption technology to really ensure that all the private data really stays private, and to take this concern away from our customers, and really make sure that this is addressed.
Wow, I didn't even know that. That's fantastic. Okay, that puts my mind at ease. One of obviously the most important questions, and we've saved the best for last perhaps, do customers have to pay for Ruby?
That's, I guess, my turn.
Please, Alex, far away.
Yeah. Well, now the open beta now obviously is free for download, absolutely. And when we go to the full release, we will also include Ruby to the laser machines. So when you purchase a Trotec laser, Ruby will be included as job control is today with the laser machine. Today we have additional modules like job control vision and job control cut, which are payable options. And this will be also in the future. So for a certain feature set, for example, we might bring to a module, and for this you need to pay extra, which also gives extra benefit. But the functionality today from job control and what you see now in Ruby, also what's already there and will be available throughout the open beta, will be free of charge in the future also.
Fantastic. Well, I'll come back to you then. We will end on a very strong note, sort of on a similar mode then. So would you say that it was on a subscription model, which is, the subscription models become very popular, obviously. Is Ruby planned for sort of a subscription or a fee-based model?
Yeah. Well, that was very interesting to see in spring. We did a survey amongst Trotec laser users. We got really good response to it, and we asked people about features and also if they would be willing to pay for a subscription model for a certain feature set. And everybody was really got nervous then and started to asking, oh, do we need to pay in the future for on a subscription basis because we don't like subscriptions? And not to make you more nervous, that was a survey, and we wanted to learn from the users when and for what they are willing to pay. And for functionality today, as you have in job control, the people said, we expect that this functionality is part of the laser machine. And we learned that, and we really respect that, and we see it the same way. As I mentioned before, for a feature set which is a little bit more advanced, like CAD/CAM functionality or vision functionality, that might be a payable option as it is today, and their subscriptions are interesting models because you can buy or use certain functionality whenever you need it, and you can turn it off when you don't need it. So there's a good customer benefit there. It's not yet decided. We're investigating it, but we're listening to our customers and users, and we only will make things which gives benefit to them.
I think that has come across in this webinar absolutely 100%. I want to, and thank you so much to our producers in the background here for popping these up for me. I wanted to ask sort of some of the questions from chat here, just as we're starting to wrap up. A great question from Enchantonard during the demo that Alex was doing about, will any font be recognized by Ruby, or, what fonts should we expect will be recognized? Does the file format affect that at all? Anything like that?
Well, that's really a good question. One of the great benefits and advantages of Ruby, because really importing the fonts to a system is something rather unique to have on a laser software. And well, during the installation, because Ruby is still installed on the Windows PC, all the fonts that are actually installed on your computer will be consumed. So these are available. And as it is a web-based technology, also all the open font types provided by Google are consumed. So whenever a font like this is being included in a file, it will be recognized and will be imported. But the good news also is Ruby will always really provide you information if something is not working. So it will give you some information if a font is contained but could not automatically be recognized or transferred. So the user will always see and notice and can take action on this then.
So sort of a similar functionality to, as you were showing, if a color in a file was to be brought in and it wasn't recognized immediately, in that same sort of way that you can assign it to one of the colors right there in Ruby. Sort of a similar idea.
Exactly.
Okay. That's fantastic. One thing I did see in the chat, and I believe we were able to answer it in the chat, but I wanted to just confirm it here officially. Will Ruby have the ability to import material settings or specifications from job control? Are you able to sort of bring those into Ruby, in advance of working with a material that you're familiar with, say, for example?
Well, as I mentioned already during the installation, Ruby will import all the configuration, including also the material settings from job control. That's also why currently job control is kind of prerequisites for the Ruby installation.
Right.
So because we are consuming all these configuration files also for the laser to really make sure the laser is really working perfectly fine. But also there's a manual functionality in the tray application where what I have shown also to open the import folder, where you can manually import also machine settings, and then also directly in Ruby can also import material settings manually.
Fantastic. Wow. Okay. So I think, again, this is another one that I think you sort of covered off, but just Mike Clark works with us here in our Canadian office, and I know I would be remiss if I did not pull up his very good question. Will a file that's in CMYK be converted to RGB? And I believe you sort of showed it almost doesn't matter.
Well, exactly. It almost doesn't matter. It will not automatically be converted because we do not want to, automatically change something that might not be intended. So it will be imported, will be recognized, and the user is informed and will also visually see that it was originally CMYK. And then you can just easily, with one click, put it off one of the default layers to send it to the laser.
Perfect. I have a question here that I found that I think you've sort of covered off again, but I just, to state officially, so does Ruby need to be physically installed on each computer that is using it, or is it enough just to have an account with Trotec and with Ruby?
Mm-hmm. Well, so as of today with the open beta, this is the case. So we still having this kind of one-to-one relation. So we need one PC to one laser where we install it on. Then, as mentioned in December, there's an update coming where we can basically access this one production PC then from any other PC in the network. And as Alex mentioned and teased, something is coming also with displays on the laser. There will come more where you really do not need to install anything on your computer and just log in via the web browser and start right away.
That's fantastic. I'm looking for the question here in chat, but I had a great one that came through from Randy, who asked, will there potentially be a way to automatically, so you were showing in your demonstration where you were adjusting the serial numbers from one piece to the next. Will there potentially be an automated way to sort of set that up as there is, say, with one of our speed marker machines?
Well, definitely. So this is really a super important feature. We see this as well. So it's definitely handy to do this kind of small batch serialization, as I've shown before. But definitely, I mean, if we want to fill up the entire work bed with plates and do really serialization with mail merge or so, this is not the perfect solution then. So we definitely need some kind of serialization working with dynamic data, and this is already on the roadmap and will definitely come as well.
Perfect. Well, listen, I know, as you said, there is going to be a lot to come. And as Peter mentioned, there's definitely going to be sort of an open roadmap structure to the development of Ruby. But I mean, if there is a particular feature or something that you feel is really, really important and you would like to see as a customer of Trotec, the best thing you can do is download the beta version and send us your feedback. I mean, we're really excited to hear it. It's the #1 thing that we would ask of you. Certainly, if you appreciate the webinar this morning, if you have any other questions, this is going to be posted on YouTube. We invite you to post them there. But the best thing we could ever ask you to do is if you could download it, and give us your feedback. That's the optimal way to see any feature you want to see in Ruby come forth in the future, sort of thing. I think, again, I am going to sort of wrap things up here. I know you three gentlemen have a lot to do. We're obviously very, very busy, both this year and next. Have a big schedule planned. But Alex, and Peter, I want to say thank you again so much for joining us this morning. I know we have a lot of great questions and comments in the chat. We will take some time to go through those at the end for all the great feedback that you guys have left for us. Thank you, everyone out there, for watching, and we hope to hear from you very, very soon with your feedback. And as always, we're here for you. Take care. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.